Ketu in the nakshatra of Magha for 2026. The ancient gods will collapse the third dimension, the unconquerable frequencies of light. Welcome back. This is the Denney channel, and I know it's only May of 2025, but what is coming, I believe, is going to be so incredibly powerful and transformative like we have not yet seen on this planet. I thought I would give you more understandings about the nakshatra of Magha. I've done a little more research and I found some very interesting, extremely powerful understandings. Now, why is it so important to talk about Ketu in Magha? Because Magha is the nakshatra that is ruled by the planet Ketu, which represents the destruction of the third dimension. And the deity that is ruling over Magha is actually not one deity. It's a whole slew of deities called the Pitris, which very inaccurately is translated as the ancestors, the forefathers, but that's not what they are. The Pitris are the primordial ancestral consciousness of all souls in the multiverse. That means that they are the highest of the councils of light beings. They are the beings that the gods themselves have to bow down to and worship and gain instruction from. So this only makes sense for the Magha, which represents the king, the true king, true rulership. There is no higher authority. And the Pitris are associated with the god Yama, who is also very superficially translated as the god of death. But again, if you're looking at things from the third dimension, then Ketu is the god of death. Ketu is a horrible, malefic influence on you, because Ketu is the portal through which higher dimension comes in. And we're going to talk about that because I've had personal experience with it. Not only have I had personal experience with it, but everybody that I've worked with who has also interacted with these beings on more than just a superficial level. It has had, I'm seeing that it has had an effect of destroying their third dimensional understandings. Some people are handling it better than others. Some people are not handling it very well. Anyway, I am one of those people that has not handled it well. So I'm not pointing fingers. I'm at the top of that list. The only difference between me and some other people is that I don't stop. I keep going. I keep saying yes. Even to this day, there are messages that I'm getting that are very challenging to hear. But anyway, let's get into what all of this is. So I've got a couple of lists here. We're going to talk about the 8th star of power, why that is so important. We're going to talk about symptoms of the third dimensional resistance to higher dimensional light frequencies, which is Magha is the concentrated form of that, as it turns out. Before we get into that, this is, of course, the Denney YouTube channel. Disclosure is coming. Open contact is here. I'd appreciate it if you do all the things. Subscribe, hit the thumbs up, like, comment, all that stupid nonsense. This gets videos going. By the way, this video is really me, because it's only May of 2025 and Ketu has just entered the sign of Leo. It's going to leave Leo in December of 2026 at the height, the most powerful, concentrated portion of Magha. So I am looking ahead a year and a half to predict what I think is going to happen. So you can come back and look at this starting in 2026 and you can see if what I'm talking about turns out to be true or not. Assuming I'm still on this planet with you, that's what I'm going to be doing as well. All right, so we're doing a bunch of things on the channel. As you know, we've got the live guided interdimensional meditations every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm trying something else. We did this last night, which is the live channeling. Oops, no, that's not what I did. What I did was the live CE5 meditation, which actually turned out to be one of these things, a live channeling of extraterrestrials. So I'm just trying to figure out how this thing works. And I'm realizing that, you know, we had a meditation on Wednesday and almost nobody showed up. And, you know, I noticed that it doesn't matter how many people, but if nobody's coming, very few people are coming, it means that either I am not doing my job or the energy is so powerful that people are backing off. And I think it's the latter. I think some people are getting wrapped up, you know, I've got this going on, I've got my job, whatever. But I think a lot of people also, I know, have just disappeared. They were fully into it and they've just disappeared. And I think it's just because the energy gets so intense. And we're going to talk about some of these things. So before we get into this, I'm going to tell you, and we talked about this in our group on Friday. We've got a live Zoom group, and there's only 3 of us there, but we were talking about it, which is that the most important thing, you should really take notes, listen to this, record this, meditate on this. The single most important thing that you should teach yourself is to continuously take contrary action. That means taking action when everything inside of you, all of your impulses, your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions is telling you to not do it, telling you to run away. That's when you should do something. And this is the most valuable skill that I've learned. And I work very hard to continue to improve in this, which is when life shows me this is the direction you need to go and everything inside of me says I don't want to do it, that's the first thing that I do. So those of you who have been doing this and the energy is getting frightening and intense and you're coming apart, I understand. It's not about how you feel, it's about what you do. This is the most important thing we can do right now. Those people who shift, when the shift comes, however that is, you're going to find out that is a character trait that they have, that they will take action regardless of how difficult and painful and frightening. And they won't talk themselves out of it. All right, so let's go ahead and continue here. All right, so let's get started. Magha Nakshatra, the 8th star of power. So it's the 8th Nakshatra. Why is that important? Well, if you've been following my channel for any length of time, we haven't talked about it a lot, but for years I focused on the 8-sided wheel, whether it was the 8-sided rune wheel or whether it was the Bagua, the 8 gates. If you're doing the Maoshan 5-element practices, you find out that we're constantly facing one of 8 directions. And I've been saying for years that this is extremely powerful, and that this is actually, when you see an 8-sided circle, any kind of glyph or, you know, representation of an 8-sided circle, this is actually a shadow in the 3rd dimension, actually on the 2nd dimensional plane, a shadow of a 6th dimensional energy. And when that energy comes into the 3rd dimension, it destroys negativity. It obliterates it. This is how you fight demons. You fight demons with this energy. And when you do those practices and you go into the 8 directions, the 9 worlds of the world tree, there's 8 directions plus the center. When you deal with that, you flow with that energy, you are destroying negativity. You are destroying evil, corruption, literally liquidating it. The Maoshan spirit fighting, we are constantly focusing one of the 8 directions, and I can tell you from personal experience as well as anecdotal experience that the energy that comes out of your hands literally slices demons and ghosts in half. Whereas most people have to pray and they have to do to get rid of the demons. People who have this energy can just walk in and just slice them to pieces. Same thing for people. This is why, it's a very powerful martial art. So, Magha is the 8th nakshatra, which means that it is a nakshatra that is about the destruction of evil. So 8 is the number of transformation from corruption to purity. The Vedic Sutra translates into English. For the Magha Nakshatra has a sutra, and it translates into English: the ancestor's gift of power needs demoralization to ruin. That is not, you wouldn't think that you're going to hear that. That sounds horrible. Let's read that again. The ancestor's gift of power needs demoralization to ruin. So bear in mind, Magha is the gift of power. So that says a couple things, that power is something that is wielded the most powerfully from somebody who has no personal, selfish agenda. The gift of power. That means that they are radiating this power with no intention for what they will get back from it. Why is that even more frightening than anything else? I've said this for years. I'm the kind of teacher, I don't care if you like me or not. I mean, I want to be liked, don't get me wrong. I want to be liked and approved of. I get my feelings hurt when people say negative things about me. But in terms of as a teacher, I don't care if you like me or not. The only thing I care about is giving you the truth that will help you to evolve. I will not co-sign anything that you do that works against you. People who are brand new to me and the channel, they show up and they do what humans do, and they operate from their ego, and they operate from victim mentality, and they operate from virtue signaling, and they do they're manipulative and all kinds of weird things and competitive. And if you read it, it sounds good, but you'll hear me just slice them to pieces. I'll go, listen, I can tell this I just read this one thing, and here's what I know about you. And a lot of people leave the channel. Some people have thanked me afterwards. They said nobody's ever, really questioned me like that and forced me to look at myself. It's because that is a gift. By the way, in case you don't know, my ascendant is in Magha Nakshatra. So this is who I am. And so as Ketu is coming into the sign of Leo, which is my ascendant sign, and starts making its way towards where I live, which is in the first pada of Magha, you're going to see me probably really start get activated. So between now and the end of December of next year, assuming I'm still on this planet, you're going to probably see me start getting really activated. And that means I'm going to have that ruthless love, which means I'm going to tell you the truth whether you like it or not. So the gift of power is not, oh cute, it's the gift of power. No, it's like, no, this guy, this being, this whatever this is, if it's Magha, this king has power. It's incorruptible, and it is selfless, which means that it is pure, and it will destroy anything that gets in the way of the king's ability to protect and empower his people. That's the only thing he thinks about. So he looks around at his kingdom and his people, and he's looking to see if there is anything that is seeking to impede their power, their happiness, their prosperity, their spiritual awareness. This is his only focus. So nobody can buy him off. You can't buy him off. You can't frighten him off, because his power doesn't come from himself. It comes from the Pitris, the beings that are the primordial beings of consciousness that the gods themselves bow down. There's only one God that can live in their power, and that is Yama, the Dhamraj, the king of Dharma, true path. He's the god of death, because in the third dimension, your superficial attachments to that, he will come in and destroy it. This is the kind of power that is coming to this world. So there's only one thing that can come from that, assuming that this is going to happen in a big way. There's only one thing that can come from that, which is the complete, total annihilation and destruction of the third dimension. So the ancestors' gift of power needs demoralization in order to ruin, which means in order to defeat the enemy. So that means that the gift of power, when the light beings show up, or the person who is operating from the frequency of the light beings, when they show up, they don't have to do or say anything. That frequency of power will be so pure and so powerful that the enemy, the person or the force that has decided to go against the rule of the righteous, because that's all that happens. The king never starts a fight with anybody. He's just there. This energy of Magha is just there. It just exists from the purest, original, primordial place of light. So when something pops up in order to oppose that, all that has to happen is that energy just has to focus on you. And what will happen is that enemy will become demoralized from the inside out. I've experienced this. There have been times in my life, I can remember, this is just as an example, but I can remember when I think it was in my mid-20s, I was probably 165 pounds, had a mohawk and all of that, and I lived in Carson, California, in a place that was controlled by some Samoan gangs. Samoans are, if you know anything about Samoans, you hit them over the head with a baseball bat, and there'll be more damage done to the bat than to their head. And I was in a liquor store getting some milk, some chocolate milk, I remember. And this guy walks in, and I had my mohawk, skinny white kid, and he trains his eyes on me and he starts giving me the stink eye. And I wasn't a tough guy. I wasn't looking for anything, but something in me snapped. And I locked eyes with him, and there was something inside of me that said, if he doesn't look away, I'm going to have to unalive him. And the back of my mind went, if you do that, he'll kill you. And I said, I don't care. And I locked eyes with him, and I don't know how long that lasted, but that feeling came over, and I let him know with the look in my eye that I had every intention of unaliving him if he continued to look at me. And the look that came over his face, I've never seen anything like it, and it was one of the most frightening experiences of my life. The look that came over his face, and then he looked down at the ground, and if he had a tail, it would have been tucked underneath him. Big, huge guy. He turned around and he walked out. That's Magha. So I had tapped into my inner Magha at that moment, because that's what happens when some negative force comes in front of that energy. and tries to do something, all that Magha has to do is just look. Just be there, say nothing. And the enemy will just demoralize themselves to the point of defeat, to complete ruin. So that's what this means. This is why it's great to not listen just to the superficial, the superficial astrology people who want to, and they take everything as a superficial thing. You go to the actual sutras, the actual ancient Vedic writings, and you find out what this is all about. So the sutra is the ancestor's gift of power needs demoralization to ruin. So I translated again to the light being's power awakens hidden insecurity in the hearts of the corrupt, which manifests their complete collapse of the self. This is important. The third dimension, we could call it the frequency of ego. We could call it the frequency of the false ego. That would be a better way to do it. The third dimension is the frequency of the false ego. Everything in the third dimension is false. I've talked about this all the time. The most powerful thing that we have in the modern world today is money. It is this is why Trump is wiping the floor with other nations right now, because he's using money against them with all these tariffs, and he's cleaning up. People are lining up, countries are lining up to be most favored nation status and trading partner and all that. And it's just a concept that doesn't exist. The third dimension is run on false ego, money. People's ego, the one thing, you can be good looking, you can be talented, you can be smart, you can be successful and beautiful. You can have all of those things, and people will give you things to puff up your ego. But what is the one thing that has more power than any of that? The person who has the most money. I mean, that's the highest, which is pure total fiction. Money doesn't exist. It is even if it did exist like it used to exist in the past, like real gold, that paper money was an IOU for an actual thing called gold. Gold itself is just the value of gold is what we place on it. It doesn't do anything. Take gold and throw it in an empty field and see if a house gets built. It won't. You have to go cut the wood and do it. Take gold and go and give it to throw it in a field with and see if crops grow. Gold itself doesn't do anything. People do it. Gold is the thing that they tell themselves, oh, I now have value now. I did this thing. Oh, you want something I have? Well, give me some of that gold, and then I'll go work my tail off and go get actual physical resources and give it to you. So the light being's power awakens insecurity in the hearts of the corrupt, which manifests their complete collapse of the self. So the exposure to the frequency of light beings will destroy the third dimension in a human from the inside out. I can tell you this from personal experience. Go back and watch the videos that I made in June of 2022. The first video I made when I had physical contact with a mantis being. I was scared out of my mind. Easily one of the two most frightening experiences I've ever had in my life. And it began to destroy me from the inside out. And so what will happen is when you have physical contact with these higher dimensional light frequencies, from the inside out, you start to, the third dimensional part of you starts to be completely annihilated. So the exposure to the frequency of light beings, which is the Pitris, which is the true ancestors, will destroy the third dimension and a human from the inside out. The Magha frequency is a declaration of war against the third dimension. My books, I've written 2 books. You haven't read them? What, you've been watching my channel for how long and you haven't bothered to read any of my books? michaeldenney.org, or go to Amazon and look for my books. Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth is one, and the other one is The Interdimensional Revolution. I titled it The Interdimensional Revolution because I was declaring war on the third dimension. So I'm not going to put myself in the spiritual new agey camp of we're just going to focus on positivity and it's just, I got nothing against that, but I'm at war. I have declared war against the third dimension. That means I've declared war against the third dimension within myself. I am just as vulnerable to everything that I've described as anybody else. I've got just as much human ego and fear, and I'm no different than anybody. So I've declared war against the third dimension within my own psyche, within my own self, but I've also declared war against the third dimension as it's manifested in this world. Now, the good news for me is all I have to do is I have to do things like lead people in these live guided interdimensional meditations. Every time I do that, I destroy another aspect of the third dimension. I do these live channelings. I channel the ETs, which is the Pitris, the light beings. So the good news is the way I fight this war is by simply channeling their frequency. That's all I have to do. And the third dimension will do the same thing that big Samoan gang member did. They're going to put their tail between their legs and they're going to skedaddle. So that's the easy part for me. I just have to do that. But make no mistake, I am declaring war, and my intention, my absolute conscious intention, is to completely annihilate and destroy this third dimensional, not just the frequency, but the actual place itself. If I had the ability, I would snap my fingers and I would collapse this physical third dimension into non-existence. This is Magha. You have a different nakshatra, you're going to have a different viewpoint on things. We're all in this thing together. This is what is coming. This is the energy that is coming. So from now, May, I believe, until March of next year. I hope I have that right. Between now and March of next year, we are going to be in, I believe we're going to be in Purva Falguni. Purva Falguni is a much kinder nakshatra. It is still Leo, but it's like more of a, here's the superficial outside of Leo. Leo is the performer, the musician, the actor, much more user-friendly. And as you get closer and closer and closer to the core of Leo, eventually you get to Magha, the first pada. And that is the energy that I'm talking about now. So we've got a little bit of time. But as we talked about in the last video, Ketu is still going to destroy all the things associated with Purva Falguni, associated with things having to do with the law of the land, things having to do with true religion. Those things, there's going to be a revolution in those things. Watch what happens over the next year. Huge revolution in that understanding. huge revolution in government, revelations on all kinds of levels. The end of celebrity, we talked about that. The idea of celebrity is going to be destroyed. And then we're going to enter Magha in March of 2026. That's when the real fur is going to fly. Whoops. I'm still here. All right, so the Magha frequency is a declaration of war against the third dimension. Symptoms of 3D resistance to higher dimensional light frequencies. All right, so I've now finally become comfortable with this. I've struggled with this. I've done my fair share of interacting with the love and light crowd out there. There's a whole crowd of spiritual people, channelers, and all kinds of stuff. I've done my fair of interacting with them, and I don't feel a connection to them. And the reason I don't feel a connection to them is because, if I'm being honest, I think the majority of that energy is focused on compromise and denial of what is happening. And what is happening is what I've said: a complete and total annihilation of the third dimension. And so I'm just getting more and more comfortable with that fact about myself, that I'm not part of that crowd. And I think you're going to see that crowd start to either dissipate and or shift, or have higher degrees of awakening from within. People are going to start waking up from within. And anyway, so let's go through some of the symptoms. So the point is that Magha, the Pitris, the light beings, the frequency of higher dimensional energy, higher dimensional consciousness, when it comes in contact with the third dimension, and human beings are third dimensional beings, when humans have actual contact, physical contact with that electromagnetic frequency from a conscious being from those levels, then what ends up happening is there will be symptoms, there will be experiences. And I'm watching this happen in myself. You've seen it if you've watched my channel from June of 2022. You've seen me go through all the things that I'm describing. I still go through these things. I am not immune to them. But again, the difference is that when I become aware of it, I keep acting, taking actions, no matter how frightening or how painful or contrary to my third dimensional ego needs. I keep taking action to the best of my ability. The people who are really struggling, and the people who are having, from my perspective, real huge snafus, these are people who are not. They are trying to take actions based on their emotions, based on their impulses, and based on their third dimensional desires. And it's making them crazy and miserable. You take action towards the Magha frequency, you're going to experience pain and fear. But it's the pain and fear of awakening, as opposed to the pain and chaos from denial and fear. And I'm here to tell you, a lot of people, of course we've seen this in religion over the years, but a lot of people presenting themselves as spiritual. I mean, a lot of them, I'm here to tell you, are severe narcissists and very destructive and full of denial, and giving misinformation and lies and buying into the misinformation and lies that's being shoved down our throat right now by the disclosure crowd. 99% of UFO disclosure are half-truths, misinformation, and outright lies. Many of the people presenting themselves as whistleblowers are actually agents of disinformation from the CIA. And there's no shortage of people with podcasts who are bringing these people on and bringing frauds. And I mean, there's a lot of garbage out there. And it's been hard for me to see that and to come to realize that. And then there's people who are trying, who are sort of half in and half out. But how did I get on that? The symptoms. So the symptoms of 3D resistance to higher dimensional light frequencies, we all know this one: anxiety and moodiness. The way that I know that I'm being I'm being hit with higher dimensional energy, like solar energy or solar storms, and or a higher dimensional being is seeking to communicate with me or coming close to me, one of the first things that happens is I will feel anxiety. Just, and then my brain will look for things. Does it every day. In my brain, I'll be fighting with somebody from 20 years ago. I'll be angry with something my mom said when I was 10 years old. And my brain will go on about that, somebody didn't close the gate at the pool, in my housing complex, and I'll go off on what the hell is the point of having a gate if you're not going to use it. That's where my brain will go. That's the first thing that happens, is it goes into anxiety, and then my brain looks for a problem. So you got to learn to just have those feelings and not take action on them, or deliberately decide I'm going to focus on something that gives me joy, focus on something gives me happiness, or focus on the difficult action that I have to do, whatever that is. Fear of the future, hopelessness, inability to take positive action. So, see, the thing about anxiety and anger is that it's trying to solve a problem. So this is why I don't focus on negative feelings if there isn't a clear problem to solve. Victims do this. They just whine and complain. They think they're accomplishing something by being, full of fear and anxiety and complaining about it. People, literally, they think they're actually accomplishing something. Your nervous system thinks that you're somehow protecting yourself by getting all wrapped up in that. So I've learned to go, okay, is there something I can solve here? Because if not, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to stop indulging in these feelings. They may still be there, but I'm not going to put any of my own effort into, co-signing them. So the next level, when the anger and the anxiety doesn't provoke you to take action that will solve your problem, then people will shut down. So the level of negativity, the level of negative hormones and things moving through your body and all that people will just completely shut down and they won't do anything. This is when people stay in bed all day playing video games, social media, whatever. That's I'm shutting down. I can't solve the problem. There's no hope. Depression. So the clinical definition of depression isn't that you're feeling sad. People say, I'm feeling depressed today. And what they mean most of the time is they're feeling sad. That's not depression. Depression is when you actually start to shut down. You start to dissociate and you start to just become like a zombie. You may have crying jags, but you're really just non-functional. And it means that you're unable to see a future for yourself. I heard this definition a while back and it was perfect. I mean, I had that. I had clinical depression way back when I was like 30, and I didn't know what was going on. I completely shut down. I couldn't function. I had back pain, and I just didn't want to get out of bed or do anything, and I didn't realize it, that I was actually suffering from clinical depression. And I heard that definition at some point, that the definition of depression is the inability to see a future for oneself. Now, seeing a future for oneself has to do with your personal goals, your aspirations, your desires. Why do you think I tell you that the most important thing you can do is to know what your soul desire is and take action on it? Because of what I went through. It is literally the most important thing for your health. It's more important than vitamins and exercise. And you're talking to somebody, I've got, tons of herbs, and I exercise as much as is, healthy for me. But I'm here to tell you the thing that is more healing, that will heal all of your wounds, all of your illnesses, is knowing what you truly desire and taking action on it, ruthless action on it, even if it's impossible to accomplish. You must take action on it. When you do that, all kinds of things happen within your body, within your mind, and your body becomes healthy. I dare you to prove me wrong. All right, so the fear of future, hopelessness, inability to take positive actions, these are symptoms of your third dimensional human ego resisting the Magha, higher dimensional light frequencies of the ancestors. Financial anxiety. Listen, I am no stranger to that. If I wasn't in the place that I'm at right now emotionally, I would be suffering from this, because literally nothing. I'm losing clients all the time, and I'm losing subscribers to my channel. So I've just decided to trust the universe, because I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And at this moment today, I have everything I need, so I'm not going to worry about it. Tomorrow, I'll get what I need tomorrow. That's how the universe works. When you follow your true path, you will get all of the resources you need on a daily basis. Doesn't mean you're going to be rich. So financial insecurity, the fear of not having enough money, and especially if that fear is interfering with your ability to take positive action. I know, I talk to people all the time, and I will talk to them about the most important thing you can do is focus on the joy of your soul and taking action on it, and I'll help them. I'm always able to do this, by the way. So if you want one of those sessions with me, you can get a private session with me, and I will be able to find out within, it takes sometimes, about a half an hour, but I can find out exactly what your soul desire is just by asking you the right questions. Whether or not you accept it and take action on it is a whole other thing. But what will happen is I will help somebody realize what they truly want to do, what their soul desire is. And many times their first response will be, well, I can't afford to do that. I have to save up money. I need to have a job. I can't quit my job. I need to keep doing my job. And that's not how it works. And I've said to many of them, well, in 10 years from now, you're still going to be at that job. I guarantee you. You won't have saved up anything. You won't be any closer to your dream. Because working the job, when you give yourself, there's only two choices, and you choose the job. And again, I've seen people do that, like they'll take out 5-10 years of their life because they want to go get a degree or something in something. And they'll say, I can't do that thing I really wanted to do, that I admitted to you and realized that I really love and I want to do. I can't do that because, then they'll come up with reasons why they can't make money at it. And they'll say, I have to make money. Well, I'm going to go make money first, then I'll go do it. And I'll say, it's never going to happen. Look at the color of my beard. I've been around. And I'm telling you, it doesn't work like that. It never has and it never will. So when you're operating from financial insecurity, you're in the third dimension. And this will get more intense. People, I've thought this, and a lot of people think, when the ascension comes and the solar flash comes and whatever they think it is, the shift to 5D is going to be. They think it's going to magically hit them and everything's going to be okay, and then they'll all be wonderful and they'll all be floating on clouds, and so they're waiting around for something to change them. Well, what's going to happen is that energy is going to hit you, and the third dimension is going to kick in to try and keep you in the third dimension. Your third dimensional ego and body, vibrates on that frequency. It doesn't want to go to 5D. It doesn't want that. It wants to stay where it understands. So you're going to go crazy. And in fact, if you're making the shift, you will think you are losing your mind. You will think you are losing it. So doing the sane thing is not, do the insane thing. That's what's going to save you. So that's going to kick in. One of the major things people are going to, they might even start having an awakening, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're going to be wrapped up about money. I can't do this because I don't have the money. I hear this all the time. All the time. Substance abuse, addictions. So when the energy hits you hard enough, trying to destroy, bear in mind, let's go back to what Magha does to the third dimension. The light being's power awakens hidden insecurity in the hearts of you can exchange corrupt with the third dimension. In the hearts of the third dimensional humans, which manifest their complete collapse of the self. There is nothing pleasant about that. That is not a beautiful, wonderful awakening. There's nothing pleasant about that. The annihilation of the self. So again, what I've told you, the most important tool you have is to take contrary action against all of your negative feelings and your impulses, going and doing what you consciously know you're supposed to do, even if it kills you, because it will. It will annihilate your third dimensional ego, which is a spiritual death. So just get used to it. This is the power of Magha. Magha, when it comes into your presence, it starts to do that. So if you don't go, if you want to worship the god Yama, worship Shiva, this energy of destruction of the self, destruction of the ego. Worship Odin, study Odin. Woden. It's the destruction of the third dimensional ego. I am now looking back at my life and what I had to do to survive when I was 18, when I started doing 12-step work to survive. And what I've had to live through. I now, I'm skating on that, because the idea of dying to the self is just as painful to me as it is to you. But I have, 40 plus years of training myself to take action, even when it's the most frightening thing I can imagine. So some of you are going to have to be quick learners. You've been skating in and out of the third dimension. You can't do it anymore. Where am I now? Okay, so substance abuse, addictions, that is a defensive response to the ego death of the higher dimensional light frequencies. Internet, social media, video game addiction. So right now, social media and internet, we're seeing all that, people are addicted to their, whatever it is, TikTok or YouTube and all that kind of stuff. And there's some value to social media. There's value. It has a lot of value because it's an alternative news source. And so a lot of truth is being given that way. That's how I use it, to get the truth, as opposed to, I don't even bother watching any of the network news. It's just a complete waste of time. But it can still be very addictive. You do it, it's a way of avoiding taking action on your true spiritual path. Number 6, denial. Just straight denial. Everything's fine. Nothing's changing. The world is still real. That's okay. Everything's fine. I go and pay my taxes, and just in total denial. Yep, this is safe and effective. Yep. Victim mentality. Again, what victim mentality is it's your self-defense mechanisms telling you you're accomplishing something. It's a way of getting together with other people who are resisting their ascension. And victims love company. Misery loves company, as the old saying goes. So victims love to get together. People who want to talk about like on YouTube, the chosen ones, super empaths. It just keeps going on and on. That's just victim mentality, and it's a defense mechanism against the power of light frequencies destroying your third dimensional ego. Victim mentality, superficiality, obviously, Katy Perry, she was so in her bubble, in her celebrity bubble. She was just clueless about, how her superficiality was going to affect people now. And seems to be clueless to how superficial she really is. I don't know her, I just know what I see. But this is a choice. People choose to become superficial as a way to avoid this ego death. Pollyannaism. All right. So this I've experienced in the New Agey spiritual thing. People are throwing around words. People are throwing around phrases. And some of them I use. Some of them I've adopted. Because they're descriptive and it's easy to tell people what I'm talking about. So I use the term 5D. Now, I use it from a physics perspective. When I say 5D, I'm not thinking, oh, I'm just in a better place. I'm happy and I'm in 5D. You're in 3D. That's not where I'm coming from at all. I actually think of it in terms of a spatial, physical, higher frequency, not just a higher frequency, right? But an actual frequency that's beyond third dimension, like you can't see or feel it. And if you did see or feel it, it would be so intense it would feel like it was destroying you. So that's what I'm talking about when I say 5D. When people talk about frequency and being on a higher frequency, I'm not talking about the same thing they're talking about. Again, they're talking about just be more positive and more loving, and it's just very Pollyanna-ish. Everything's good, we just have to be more positive about our life, and just say hello and don't be in such a bad mood all the time. And this is, to me, it's starting to come across as a defense mechanism. It's starting to come across as a form of denial. Look, the reality is, our world, everything that we know about ourself and our reality is being annihilated energetically. Every time we do these meditations, we are annihilating our own third dimensional identity. If you're doing these meditations, and at some point after the meditation, if not during the meditation, if at some point after the meditation you aren't going through like doubts of your sanity and feeling afraid and feeling like you're coming apart and I don't want to do these meditations anymore, if that's not happening to you, then you and I are not having the same experience. I mean, I'm the one that instigated it. I'm the one that started these meditations. I'm the one that's leading them. And there are days afterwards that I'm worthless. I can't function for days afterwards. I'm frightened, depressed, and my understanding of reality is coming apart. Sometimes I feel great afterwards. Sometimes I feel just like myself. But the larger amount of higher dimensional energy that hits me, the more crisis of identity I experience. If that's not happening for you, then either I don't know what. My experience when I look at other people, watch other people, I've now had 3 years to watch other people doing it. And I've seen everybody go through that same thing, and I've seen people completely shift. There's a couple of people for sure that have met the challenge of this, and to this point they have shifted, and they're continuing to shift. Their entire character, who they are, their understanding of themselves is completely transforming. They're becoming different people. There are other people I've worked with who started to do that, and then they bumped into it got too much, and then they went in the other direction. And they started doing all the things I'm talking about: victim mentality, addiction, running away, hiding, delusion. That is somebody who's running away from this Magha energy. This is no joke. This shift is no joke. There is nothing to be Pollyanna-ish about. We should not minimize the completely galactic transformational impact that it's having on us. We should not. There is nothing spiritual about minimizing this. So Pollyannaism, this is actually a defense against this higher dimensional light frequency. Whoops, where am I? Feelings of insecurity, desires for fame, social acceptance, that's obvious, you're running in the other direction. Feelings of insecurity, that's a normal thing. I go through that. So that's just a feeling. So here's the thing. You can't control your feelings. You can't control your thoughts. I don't care what anybody tells you. You have a small amount of control over how much you choose to indulge in your feelings. So a feeling pops up. You can deny it. Don't do that. Or you can buy into it and then indulge in it and make it worse. Don't do that. What is it that I've been telling you for years now? That the definition of enlightenment is simply this. It is having all of your thoughts and feelings, accepting them, experiencing them, and simultaneously taking sometimes contrary conscious action that you know is best for you and all conscious beings. If taking action that is best for you and all conscious beings feels good, so much the better. But I guarantee you, there will be times when you will know that the conscious action will be very painful to you. And if you're doing it without expectation, you're thinking about what is best for the other person. And sometimes that will be the most difficult, challenging thing, and you'll want to do everything other than that. But the act of enlightenment is to take the conscious action, regardless of how you feel. Most people, again, this comes from all kinds of mistakes in the spiritual, just in the modern Western society. People think they have to feel a certain way before they can act. People ask me all the time, how can I get over my fears? And I say the same thing. When did I ever tell you you were supposed to get over your fears? Those who die in battle go to Valhalla. Not those who feel like going to battle go to Valhalla. No, people who die in battle. It means that they didn't want to go. It was the most frightening. They didn't want to go on that battlefield. They were scared, but they went anyway. You take action regardless of how you feel, you are enlightened, period. It's got nothing to do with how you feel. If you feels good, so much the better. I'm happy for you. But it's not about that. So enlightenment is not a feeling. Enlightenment is an action. Guilt, feelings of inadequacy. So guilt starts to come in. This is an interesting one. We're going to talk about this. Guilt. This is a symptom of higher dimensional shift. It first comes as guilt. You start to feel guilty for no reason. Or things you've been programmed to feel guilty about all your life really start to intensify. You just feel guilty. You feel inadequate. You're unworthy. You're not good enough. Listen, I go through this daily. Daily, I have these feelings. So I know what it's like to have these feelings and take the opposite action. This is a sign. This gets even more insidious. Number 9, after exposure to light frequency, feelings of betraying humanity. I went through this. And in my experience, the people whom I've experienced who are the most conscious, this is one of the first things that they say. They'll say, after interacting with light beings directly or having been exposed to the frequency of higher dimensional beings, one of the first things, this happened to me. I made videos about it. First thing people say is, I feel like I'm betraying the human race. Again, this is why I titled my book Interdimensional Revolution, because I had those feelings and I became aware that, yes, I am. I am betraying third dimensional humanity. I am betraying this third dimensional frequency. And I decided to just own that. And now I'm at war against third dimensional frequency. Now again, I don't have to go and do anything. I don't have to attack anything or anybody. I don't have to carry signs. I don't have to do any of that. Very lucky for me, what I do is I meditate and I send light being frequency, light codes, if you want to call it that. Higher dimensional frequency, the Huar breath, the Hul breath. I send that energy to Earth with the conscious intention of completely, totally liquefying and destroying the third dimensional frequency. I am at war. So we have identified, as human beings, our ego, our identity is identified with the frequency of the false ego, with the frequency of money, with the frequency of the United States or, Western society, or, if you're Middle East, the Islamic world, or if you're Jewish, the Zionist movement. We become identified. Like our ego, our identity is connected to that. And, I've noticed this, people throw around the word collective. I've noticed this in like the spiritual, YouTube stuff. People will claim to channel, for instance, the Pleiadian collective. And I'm here to tell you that every time I hear that word, it hits me wrong. And I understand why now. Because the third dimensional frequency is a collective frequency. Communism. It means to destroy your individual identity. And we take comfort in that. That's why the spiritual community likes that word collective. They like to identify with the collective because they get to disappear and they get their identity from everybody that they're with. This is virtue signaling is all about this. Religion is all about this. Politics is all about this. Nationalism is all about this. You get your value from the people around you and you identify with them. The something syndrome, where captives identify with their captors. So this is self-devaluation, and it's the opposite of the Magha frequency, which is the individual. Now, this is one of the ways that I know somebody's channeling, whether they're really channeling ETs or not. Because if they, for instance, like I said, flipping through YouTube just today, I saw somebody channeling the Pleiadian collective, and they start going into, we want to share with you the human collective, and then this general, spiritual platitudes, and it's about everybody, and they're talking to a group of people, the group think. And I've realized that ETs don't do that. Light beings don't do that. The Pitris don't do that. What they do is they talk to you individually. And they talk to you like you are the only being that exists. They talk to you like you are the most important, the most powerful. They will tell everybody the same thing, and they will mean it. They will look at you and they will say, you're my favorite person. You're my favorite human. And they mean it. They don't talk to groups of people about general concepts. They don't give predictions about, biblical prophets. Thus saith the Lord. They don't do that. So this energy of higher dimensions is going to get you to focus on your identity and your direct connection with God, the source. Not your connection with a collective, not your connection with humanity. This is Leo, this is Magha, the soul. The soul falls in love with itself, and it is the actual true self-confidence, which is true spirituality, which is mirrored falsely by the third dimensional ego, third dimensional narcissism, which has a false grandiose identity that compares itself to others. So the narcissistic, grandiose, false self compares itself to others and says, I am superior or inferior. The Magha, Leo identity of the soul says, I am everything. Oh my God, and so are you. And that, when you experience it, your first thought is that you're having a grandiose delusion, grandiose narcissistic delusion. But it's the real awareness of self as opposed to the false awareness of self that happens in third dimensional devaluation. All right, so after exposure to light frequencies, feelings of betraying humanity, narcissism and codependence. So I just naturally went into that, and you got all of that. So anyway, that's a lot of stuff. So anyway, my prediction next year, by December of next year, you will see, this is my prediction. This isn't a psychic prediction. This is just based on this understanding that things will have shifted so drastically by then that there will be no going back. But the first dominoes have fallen. And now, since Ketu, the god of the destruction of the third dimension, is now going over the sign of the soul of Leo, now we're going to see third dimensional narcissistic devaluation is going to start to be chopped up and destroyed, until finally the frequency of Magha, the frequency of the Pitris, the frequency of the primordial conscious light beings becomes so intense that the third dimension, very likely, if there's going to be a time when there's going to be a shift, when there's going to be instantaneous solar flash, when there's going to be a shift between worlds, like a higher 5D and a lower 3D and a 2D, that's when it could happen. That would be a perfect time for it to happen. December of 26. And if I'm still here on this planet, I, like you, will be watching to see if that prediction turns out to be true. So that's it for me. So listen, guys, we're still doing these live guided meditations every Wednesday, and we are doing the what have I changed it to? And then we're doing the, let's see, what else? The live CE5. Yeah, we're doing the live CE5 every Saturday, which is basically, I tried to just do a basic CE5, and the light beings weren't having any of it, and they were pulling me into, another interdimensional meditation, and it was very powerful, very powerful. So twice a week we're going to be doing something, and I'm going to start doing more of these live ET channeling, which you can use as like CE5, open contact. My goal, let me be clear what my goal is. My goal when I channel ETs is to be a portal so that those higher dimensional frequencies can physically interact with your aura and to shift you and to create a permanent higher dimensional, interdimensional portal connection so that you now have a connection directly to them. That's my goal. And of course, I'm still doing the half off channeling, where I give you personalized extraterrestrial channeled guidance for you. The half off, it's not 1 week only, it's now permanent. The half off is that you let me record it and put it up on video and put it up on the channel. If you want a private session where I don't record it, then you can get a normal one, channel.thunderwizard.com. If you are struggling, if you are having any of these symptoms that I went through, if you're somebody that was making progress, there's some of you out there, you know who you are. You were making progress and you've since backed off, and some of you have gone completely in the other direction. If you're one of those people, then I encourage you to get back and keep working with me. Here's what happens. Everybody who works with me and follows my directions, every single one of them evolves. People who don't follow my directions, it's a crapshoot. And if you're one of those people, you're struggling with being able to handle this frequency or even experience it, thunderwizard.com, do the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, and or go to the shop and get the Maoshan practices, the 5-element Maoshan practices, or the Celestial Qigong, or the Hua breath mantra, or whatever. By the way, I am going to record and upload and offer the first spirit fighting set, which comes after the 5 elements, and that is called the Hands of Infinity. I've given you bits and pieces of that, but I'm going to give you the entire set. It's fairly simple, but it's very powerful, the Hands of Infinity. And so when that comes out, I'll let you guys know. That'll be available on the shop. All right, that's it. And of course, my books. You've been watching my channel and you've never even read my books about ETs, and you think you can go on my channel and comment about stuff? michaeldenney.org to find out where to find my books on Amazon. I love you all, my friends. Get ready, because I'm going to become more and more ruthless and loving and Magha. So my goal is to work with you to help destroy your third dimensional attachments so that you can shift up. to your higher dimensional self. So strap yourselves in. It's going to get interesting. Please be very good to yourselves. I love you all, and I will see you all very soon.